Tech Addicts Episode 9, Powershot of Love. This week, a hungover Ted gives his impressions of the Canon Powershot V1, Anbernic doing a sneaky cheeky update, Pixel Emergency SOS sending nudes, and the Oppo Pad 4 Pro coming soon. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I'm Gareth, the host, and I am joined this week by Ted. How are you, Ted?
I'm all right, thank you. We're going to bore everyone by not having any guests this week. It's just the two of us. And actually, I must admit, I had some beers last night, and I got a bit of a hangover, so don't expect too much. Weather forecast it was my birthday. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday.
The weather forecast is cloudy and about 6 or 7 degrees and no wind and just a bit drab.
Drab. Okay. Well, much like yourself, I had a few beers as well last night. But I'm feeling okay this morning. I have lost my voice a bit, which I apologise for. I don't normally sound this husky. Maybe some of the ladies are thinking, ooh, my. But probably
Gareth.
not.
Ooh, Gareth. Give me a portion.
Grief. Right, back, moving on to the weather. Yeah, it's very grey over here. I think it's quite cold outside. The weather is reporting that it's 11 degrees, so that's all right. Yeah. So not too bad. Yeah, I think I lost my voice primarily because I was yelling obscenities at Pi-hole.
Oh dear.
Yeah. My version 6 of Pi-hole came out, and it didn't like my Pi-hole, or it didn't like the instance of Pi-hole that I had. Because over the years I've done a few things with it. I've expanded it. I've had a few other things running on the Raspberry Pi at the same time. But there was something there that was inhibiting the full upgrade from version 5 to version 6. Because I was running Raspberry in version 10. And it's command line thing. I don't have a screen for it. So I'm having to do it all through command line whilst being useless at Linux, and also trying to think back to, did I ever put in unbound or uninstall unbound? How do I tell? Or this, that, and the other. And in the end, I had to just tear it all up and reinstall it. And I haven't quite got it on yet, but it was a few days of just annoyance. DNS is not working, DHCP is not working, having to transfer DHCP from one to the other. And those that don't know what DHCP is, DHCP, it's, I can't remember what it means off the top of my head, but it kind of attributes an like an IP, and it tells what's what on the network, so that your computer knows where it is and where it's sending package data and things like that. So if I was to turn off DHCP and then try to access anything else on my network, it wouldn't be able to find it, including the router itself. So you've got that problem. So when you turn off DHCP, which is handled by your Pi-hole, and then you try to go back to your router, you can't do that because it can't find it. So it was one of those cases. So I'm trying to hand things back over to the Pi-hole and then losing all of internet connections and things like that.
You do have a complicated life, don't you?
It was made tremendously more complicated. And it's one of those things that, once you've got it set up and it's working nicely, you don't tinker with it maybe, because tinkering with it can break things, and that makes you not want to have to tinker with it. So I'd left it for, 4 or 5 years, just doing random upgrades and updates and things like that as they came along, but not actually really paying too much attention because it was just working. So don't tinker with it. It ain't broke.
Leave it alone. Leave Dibble alone.
And then you have to go in the hard way and go, oh no, I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to start. What does this error mean? So 3 days later, and I'm still no further on. I still have no pie hole, but that'll hopefully change tonight because I've got it all here sitting beside me. I just have to take it downstairs. Plug it in.
More highly qualified as a tech addict as a result.
Well, it was one of those things where I'm like, am I getting too old for computers? Really? Am I? And I was going to talk about this later on, but I may as well say it now, but I turned my attention back to that Intel Pentium 3 Windows 98 computer because I've decided to go with the SSD over the spinning hard drive.
Right.
But, having to relearn all kind of master slave drive jumper settings, play with BIOSes that are not modern, but they're simpler, and trying to remember that, thinking it from the other point of view that if I just put a hard drive in, it'll recognize it. I don't have encryption or records that are unique to Windows 10 or Windows 11. It's a real pain in the ass to take a hard disk out of a new computer and put it into another computer. This is older stuff, so I'm much better at doing that. It just requires going back and relearning and reminding myself of how things worked. But yes, I haven't managed to get that done, so I took a break from all things Pi-hole and went and sorted out the SSD. Started sorting out the SSD. It's in, I just can't get it to boot. Anyway, how are you? What happened with you with your birthday? What did you do?
Nothing.
Oh,
I had jelly and ice cream.
And beer. Did you have it before or after?
No, the jelly and ice cream was at lunchtime with my old dad, who bought me some beer for my birthday. He said, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "I don't really need anything. Well, unless you want to buy me a Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6, and he wasn't particularly up for that. So I said, "Just get me some beer." So he did, and my sister got me some beer as well. I put the word out that birthdays are for beer. It's a beer birthday. And,
yeah. And did you drink it all on the one day? Or?
No, I was very restrained actually. And the one that came from my sister is a pack from Amazon of real ales, none of which I've ever heard of. And that's quite interesting to sample some stuff that you just don't know and see if, you just find something that just blows your socks off and you think, oh, wow, I wish I'd found this earlier.
And are you going to take notes? Are you going to record the experience? Or are you just going to go, that looks pretty, I'll have that first. That looks less pretty, I'll have that second.
That'd be very nerdy, wouldn't it? And get your little thermometer and water heater out and put it in the beer and make sure it's the absolute right time. I remember one time I was down a pub decades ago when I was down south, and this group of people came in and they asked if they could plug in their heater. They said, this real ale you're serving is not really the right temperature. Do you mind if I plug this in and warm it up a bit? The landlord went berserk. He chucked him out.
I'm sure. Brilliant.
So there's all that nerdy stuff that goes with real ale, which I don't really want to get into.
Well, what's the channel on YouTube? Craft Computing. He's pretty good. He has beer and technology. You'd like that.
Oh right, okay.
It's very nerdy though. He gets into. He takes computers apart. Things.
Right. Anyway, it was when you get to my age, birthdays don't really matter much anyway. I'm 62, 62.
Wow. You'll be retiring soon. Living a life of leisure. Blimey. Right, 62. Cheapers. That's... I'm 45 now. Wow. So, yeah, you're a good bit older than me.
I am, yeah. And much more experienced. No, actually, much less experienced. You've seen the world. I haven't.
You're much wiser. You've dealt with things that I wasn't aware of, like the 1950s.
Yes.
Right. Well, moving into the feedback and Fallout contribution section, we have a message from JT Manuel, who we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. He was most excited whenever we mentioned his name, so we're doing it again. Hello, and he says, whoa, never thought I'd get a mention. Thank you, guys. I've been listening to both of you since forever. Ted on PSC and Gareth since Mobile Tech Addicts. Wow, that was quite some time ago. But Ted, you've been on PSC. How long have you been on PSC now?
2008 we started.
Jeepers.
And we're on show 880 something, I think.
Jeepers. Wow, respect. And have yet to be disappointed. I too am like Ted. Oh no. I'm currently on RGN, working in a private care home here. Sorry. Maybe I'm more hungover than I thought. In Barrow in Inverness. Or Inverness.
Barrow in Furness.
That's not Inverness in Scotland then. That's an English thing, isn't it?
It's in Furness. The north. It's in the northwest. It's in where they talk properly. Northwest.
Is that near Hadrian's Wall?
It's kind of north of Liverpool and a bit to the left, I think.
Do people from Liverpool talk properly? Sorry, I'm just having a joke there. Because it's the liver bird and they call it Liverpool.
Yeah.
Not Liverpool? No, never mind, sorry.
I've never been to Barrow in Furness. I've heard a lot about it. Apparently they've got a lovely bus station.
Right, okay. Are you just Googling it now to see what people recommend?
No. I was referring to a skit from a comedy show, which I won't bore you with. But do carry on with JT Manuel's monologue.
Oh, is that what we were doing? Oh, yes. Okay. And have been a tech enthusiast since I got my Atari 800 XL. Good, solid system there, JT. I then moved to the NES, not the SNES or SNES as it's sometimes called by one person in particular. Then all iterations of the Game Boy. And you guys are also relatable. I'm always looking forward to both PSC and Tech Addicts for my daily walk to work. Keep up the good work. Cheers from the Northwest.
Told you.
See, it's in the Northwest, Ted. Brilliant. Good to know. Thanks, JT. Thank you very much. Sorry for absolutely butchering your comment, but I'm trying to drink some water as well. I wouldn't mind a coffee and some orange juice, maybe some sausages.
He's still pissed.
No, I'm not. Okay, so we also got a comment from Cheap Retro Gaming, who listened to last week's show with Slope's Game Room. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for sharing the interview. I've only watched a few of Slope's Game Room, but I've enjoyed what I've seen thus far. For the podcast/interview here, I like the different stories of what Daniel had gone through, such as almost getting scammed by the other channel, but thankfully avoiding that. I have also never heard of the epic Amico video, which I actually started watching, I'll have to say, which was quite good, that he had produced either. I hope to check it out later. Years ago, I was interested in the system because I liked the idea of the unique controller and the family-friendly games. But of course, I had no interest in getting it now. It's sad how it all has panned out. Thanks again for the interview. So yes, thank you very much for writing in about that. It was a fun interview. I did enjoy it. It was great to finally connect with Daniel, who was a gentleman.
There was a couple of people in the MeWe group as well who expressed positive regard about having him on the show. They sounded really enthusiastic about it. So it was a good shout, I think.
Yeah, he's a fascinating man with some fascinating videos, and I do recommend his YouTube channel because there's loads of stuff there to delve into if you're into gaming, technology, or just good old-fashioned scams.
Yeah.
So, the news. We've
Oh,
got
excuse
some
me.
news on the horizon, and we're going to start with something that's actually kind of funny. And the Pixel has been back in the news recently for, well, for not it's not something that's their fault. It's more the fault of the user who attempted to turn off an early morning alarm whilst they were wakening up and accidentally activated the emergency SOS feature that activated the cameras and microphone whilst they were wrestling with the phone to try to stop this. They were sleeping in the buff and ended up sending a nude dick pic to all of their people on their emergency SOS list.
I wonder why anyone would have 12 people on their emergency contact list. It seemed a bit extreme.
Yeah, do you have anyone?
No, I don't use it because of this very thing, this whole emergency SOS thing. It's just waiting to go wrong, I reckon, and I've never used it. It prompts me, and I say no, thank you, leave that turned off. But the thing is that this is a bit of an extreme example, I think, is that in order to invoke this system, you've got to press the power button 5 times in a row. So he's stumbling around, pressing the power button 5 times, trying to turn off an alarm, so he says. He's sleeping in the buff, obviously without any bedclothes over him. I've not seen the video. And the emergency system in the SOS thing in the Pixel has shot a video, and he must have set that up to do that, obviously. And if it's a genuine emergency and you're being raped or pillaged, then it's a good thing because you've got a video rolling, and the video is then, well, not the video, but a link to the video, which is held online for I don't know, about a month or something. The link to the video is sent to whoever you've got in your emergency contact list. So those 12 people, they would all have had to go and look at the video online to see the video. So it's not that the video has actually been sent to them as such. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny story, really. But the system is actually, I think, quite a good one. So if you are in stuck, or you're being, chased down the road or something, and you press your button 5 times, the fact that it's taking a video and recording what's going on, I think is really, really good idea. But I just don't trust systems like that. What about do you remember the one where the various phones were being set off the dialing treble 9 when people are on fairground rides? It's just asking for trouble, isn't it?
It is, yeah. They've got to try and come up with some solution, but obviously it's not going to be compatible with every phone. Maybe Apple and Google and that all need to sit down and come up with something that is practical and sensible and can.
Well, they kind of have. Apparently, they have now, because the Pixel Watch has got this. You've got to not only press the button 5 times. You've now got to. It gives you a dialogue and says, "Are you sure?" So you've got to then engage with the screen another time to say, "Yes, I'm sure."
Okay. Well, I've actually seen the video, and I have to say that it's a bit anticlimactic when it comes to actually what is being exposed. It's generally a video of the person's bedroom ceiling, but there's a moment where they kind of lean forward and capture what is generally located between their legs, whilst not having a cover over them.
Perhaps they lived in a hot country, did they?
Well, yeah, probably, but there's no fan on the ceiling, and generally people who live in cold countries have fans on the ceiling.
Mm.
So maybe not, but I don't know. We'll see. It is what it is, and it'll probably be forgotten by this time next week.
Yes.
Yes.
Or by the time we get to the end of this sentence.
What now? So the Canon Powershot V1 has been announced, which is a new vlogging style camera that features a 22.3 megapixel sensor, a 16 to 50 millimeter f2.8 to 4.5 lens, a 4K 30p video recording, and it's compact enough to take with you. It's got a built-in 3-stop ND filter, microphone and headphones ports, and an in-body image stabilization, which seems to be quite crucial to the whole vlogging aspect. It offers a fast burst shooting mode of up to 30 frames per second with an electronic shutter, and the V1 is expected to have a really competitive price point that Canon I don't think have put up just yet, but it's going to be under $1,000. They're hinting at, and it does look like a rather attractive option for vloggers and photographers out there. We should be seeing it around about April, May kind of time. Ted, what do you think of this?
I think that they've put this out to compete with the Sony ZV-1 Mark II, and to some degree it does compete with that. Now, the reason that I'm kind of interested in cameras at the moment is because I keep threatening to possibly buy one, but I want to kind of take my time and just slowly slink back into learning about what cameras are out there and what's what. Now, the Sony and the Canon here are actually quite different in a number of ways. Firstly, and I think possibly most importantly, is that the sensor in the Canon is a bigger one. It's all but a kind of 4/3 size sensor in there, whereas the Sony's got a 1-inch sensor, which is perfectly good. But that serves differently in different ways. Now, the Canon also, one of the features I like about cameras is it's got a ring around the lens which you can assign to what you like, but out of the box it's an aperture ring, which is just great. That takes me straight back to my photography days. Ring of the aperture around the lens. You can do that on the Sony, but you've got to assign that in kind of menus, and it's not quite designed to work that way. The better thing about the Sony, however, is that it's got a faster lens. It's got a 18 to 50 mil equivalent f1.8 to f4 across the range of the zoom, whereas the Canon's got a f2 to f4.5, which makes it just a slower lens and not so good. However, it has got that bigger sensor and one could argue that you can do more with the bigger sensor in terms of artificially creating all sorts of aperture related stuff. Both of them look really, really nice, but they are vlogging cameras, and they're very much geared up to people who are content creators, possibly out and about more, and possibly more related to video than stills. The Canon is a physically bigger camera. It's a bit lumpish, really. In actual fact, I prefer the look and the sizing of the Sony device, to be honest. Now, on the back of this story, and yes, you're right, it's going to be apparently about the same price as the Sony, so under 800 quid, that kind of territory. On the back of this, however, there's another Canon camera that's coming out that's not aimed at vloggers, and it's the V3, and this V3 might actually be more suited to what I might be looking for, because it's not video centered, but it's got pretty much the same stuff going on with it. And in these latest leaks, they're saying that it will have a decent zoom lens, so I don't know what it'll be, probably 28 to 105 or something, but still with that big 4/3 kind of size sensor, and the same handling, so the aperture ring around the lens. So yeah, really interesting kind of stuff going on between Canon and Sony, and some really interesting options coming along. And I'm encouraged by the fact that some of it is not just for vloggers and YouTube creators, but actually dipping their toe back into providing some standalone compact cameras that are actually very good ones, but not up there with silly Leica prices and with big sensors and really good handling. So yeah, any thoughts?
I hadn't actually clocked the Canon Powershot V3. I'm looking into it now, because I think it's time I got a new camera too.
Yeah.
And if I'm going away this summer, then it might be a nice time to bed in a camera. But I don't want to go whole SLR and multiple lenses and all that kind of stuff. I want to pack light.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was looking at a second-hand DSLR last night, the Nikon D600, really well priced, and it's full frame. And at some point you've got to try and work out whether it's worth insisting on full frame or actually a crop sensor for most things for most of the time is perfectly good, particularly when you've got really clever software going on behind the scene, which this Canon and the Sony do have, almost like a phone's, processing power in terms of manipulating images post-processing. So yeah, I just think it's quite exciting times coming up with us, kind of older photographers and camera lovers in mind. I shall look forward to it.
Yeah, well, I was talking to a chap on Thursday, who's about to head off to Sri Lanka, and I was asking because he's very much into photography and he has all the gear, and it was like, oh, so what are you going to take with you? Which camera are you going to take with you? And he said he's not. He's just going to take his phone with him. I thought, flipping heck, it's a safari he's going in Sri Lanka. I was like, really? He just went, yeah, I don't care to carry all that clutter with me anymore.
Yeah,
I just want this one thing, and that's really made me think. I've got my Panasonic Lumix, which is a big camera.
Yeah.
And I don't really fancy wrestling with it. I just like a wee compact camera with a good zoom that you want to take away with you.
Yeah, and particularly if it's got a bigger sensor size, that V3 might be just right for you. I mean, if I was going on a safari though, I would, I would accept that you take an SLR with you, and you want to have really long, good lenses for that kind of trip. But if you're just going to go on a cruise and fart about on, popping into ports and doing some street photography, then it's very different.
Yeah, and it is the question of, at the end of this, after you've invested all this money into a big camera and taking it with you and lugging it around the world, who are you going to show it to whenever you're not a professional photographer? You're going to show it to your family? You're going to put it on social media? In which case, a phone is fine.
Yeah, you could make some money from it. I mean, people do. I subscribe to this website called Pexels, Pexels, and there are a few of those, like Unsplash and Pixabay, and all the rest of it. And if you want to, take photographs to potentially sell, you can upload them to various services and make some money. And I do believe that people do perhaps not make a living from it, but that there are options out there.
Actually, I worked with a lady once before who got a picture of a particular bird at a local pond, and she was just a wee amateur photographer who really enjoyed just going out and taking the pictures, and she was showing everyone these pictures, and I said to her, you could maybe sell that because it looks picture postcard. And she went and investigated it and found, I think it was 500 pics or something like that, which was I don't know if it still exists, but she put it on there and someone bought it off her for about 400 quid.
Wow.
And it was her first ever photograph, and she tried to do this again and again and never got anyone to buy anything after that, but just that one picture she had to sell over. She still has a copy of it, but that person owns the rights to it now.
Right, yeah. But, yeah, and to some degree, I completely take your point about phones and your friend's point about phones, but it's also a hobby. And it's okay, like you with your Windows 98 computer. It's okay to have a hobby and enjoy owning the hardware and doing, even if your photographs don't get looked at and enjoyed by anyone but you and your friends. Does that really matter? You're enjoying what you're doing, and that's where I come in. I think is that I just love the thought of taking photos and enjoying the whole process, including the hardware.
Yeah, because you have all those pictures that you took during the Readers' Wives. Anyway, moving on. We've got a wee bit of an Anbernic update. Anbernic is a fairly well-made emulation device that allows you to play old games. You've probably been on Amazon or AliExpress or something like that and seen one of those retro handheld consoles that comes with an SD card with 1 million ROMs on it. And yeah, they're great fun. And if it comes from a brand called Anbernic, you can guarantee you're going to get a genuinely well-made handheld. I have one, and I do like it. I haven't used it in quite some time. Because it's in a state of needs a new operating system put on it, and I kind of left it halfway through. I can't be arsed getting back into it and remembering where I was with it. But the Anbernic have done something that's a wee bit strange, and I think it's in direct response to the fact that you had those bundles where you'd be able to buy it with an SD card, because effectively they're selling ROMs, and if Nintendo go after them, there probably aren't any Nintendo ROMs on it because they're already too scared. But if a company goes after them for selling these ROMs, then they have a problem. So what they have done is they've actually released this new application that comes with it, and it's called where was it? It began with an R. Yep, it began with a Rixel HK. Rixel HK, and you can download it to the device, and it gives you essentially a Netflix style menu of game selection, and it significantly simplifies the process of going and getting a game, which anyone who's tried to do that will tell you that it can be quite cumbersome and difficult. But this will download essentially a ROM of that game for a particular emulator and get your handheld up and running, and it's very convenient. But it's caused a bit of internet hubbub about how they're doing this, and privacy concerns and piracy concerns. Ted, have you had a chance to look at this?
I'm afraid I haven't, no. But it seems to be a bit concerning that all of this seems fairly illegal, and that if game emulation or retro gaming is taking off and is becoming more popular, like you say it is, then it's probably not surprising that people like companies like this that are ripping off games from the big boys are going to come in and say, hang on a minute, you can't do that. It was okay when hardly anybody wanted it, but now that loads of people want it, we want in on the action. And so don't misbehave. Let's license this properly and do it properly. I don't know whether the selling of an SD card with the content on it is a bit different. Whether they say, well, we're giving you the card for free. We're not selling it as such. I don't know. I'm not really sure how it works. But this is much more your department than mine.
Well, it's a real grey area, because on the one argument, yes, you have, say, something like Super Mario Brothers on the Nintendo Entertainment System that is still essentially being sold today. It's a pack-in title. If you could take out Nintendo Online on the Nintendo Switch, it's one of the games that you have access to on their kind of virtual console type thing. So it's understandable that shouldn't be included in any of these, and Nintendo are quite aggressive about that, so they don't include those. But say, for example, you were to go back to the 1983 and pick out a random Nintendo Entertainment System game from a company that is now very much defunct, and that game hasn't been released really since, but there are cartridges available, and people have taken the time to take the cartridge, rip the contents off, and dump it into a ROM file, so that people who do own it can now play it, because maybe they don't have a Nintendo anymore. And that people are rediscovering old games that are still really quite good. I mean, we wouldn't know very much about some of the other Mario games that were released for the likes of the 3DO or the Panasonic, and there was a Zelda game that was released for that as well, and they only exist in ROM format somewhere on people's devices. They don't exist in the archives that Nintendo make available to you. So, preserving things rather than letting them fall away is quite important. But because it's such a grey area, for some of those games, a lot of those games, that Amstrad, Commodore, Spectrum or whatever, there isn't actually really anyone out there to kick up a fuss anymore, because maybe the rights have lapsed or the company doesn't exist anymore. The people who originally made it aren't alive anymore or don't care. You know, there's all these kind of things. So should those games just be lost because essentially it's still piracy?
What
Because you
about
don't.
what about Evercade though? Because they presumably Evercade pick the games and license them properly from the houses or the people involved. And yet this other company, Anbernic, you could argue is just doing it illegally, and they should be stopped. Whereas Evercade are doing it nicely and yeah.
Well, yeah, but you'll see that Evercade are releasing games that are available on various different consoles in such a way that the company behind them are quite happy to license it out. Like, say,
Right.
Tomb Raider has just come out in Evercade, which
Yeah.
is very much available on Steam and every other console that
Right.
you get, and it's had
Yeah.
big refreshes. But old games like, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm just having to look over to inspire myself.
Boulder Dash.
Well, Boulder Dash is actually a big IP.
Oh right.
But everyone's a Wally on Amstrad CPC and Spectrum and things like that. I don't know who owns that, and I don't think that it has been released
Right.
since its cassette.
But if someone started to make it up there and famous again, and the person who owns the copyright of it suddenly realised that it was becoming up there, then justifiably they would be getting cross if someone was nicking it and not giving them some royalties.
Well, it's the other side of the copyright lapsing as well. I mean, Steamboat Willie, which is one of the first Mickey Mouse cartoons,
Yeah.
has recently lapsed, and that's why we're getting, and Popeye as well. That's why we're getting all these knockoffs that are free to use Mickey Mouse and Popeye's names because they're not copyright anymore.
Yeah.
They're public domain. So there's a whole grey area where these games are essentially a free for all. You can take them, but if someone was to come along and try to do Everyone's a Wally too, there might be a bit of a backlash because someone might still own the copyright
Yeah.
somewhere along the lines. But you have to do that. You have to check that, and it's just it's a strange thing, and it's a grey area that we're never really going to have a proper decision made on it because ultimately it's not terribly important. And all we can do is watch someone like Nintendo take someone to court and see what the outcome is and see what that judge decides for the laws to be written then. Anyway, that's enough of that because I can see what the next news article is, and I'm sure Ted's itching to get onto it because it's a turntable. Tedley Deadly, tell us about this little turntable.
This is a turntable which I read about in Tech Addict. Sorry, not Tech Addicts, that's us.
Okay.
Tech Radar. And it's a very, very expensive lump of aluminium, basically. Style over substance, or whatever the phrase is. Absolutely, it's a solid. Well, not solid. It's hollow, but it's a lump of aluminium, which has been carved out on the inside to be a record player. All of the workings, apart from two little buttons on the top to change the speed, are inside the device. So there's no tone arm. The tone arm is underneath the record. So the side of the record you want to play, you put face down.
That's complicated.
And I think that you remember linear tracking, where I think that the stylus here is a linear tracking stylus, and in the same way that it gets, you remember, I don't know, do you remember not Blu-rays, Laserdisc? I think Laserdiscs were read in the same way as this, so you didn't have any other kind of technology going on. It was just like this tone arm that was in a linear fashion. Anyway, I haven't seen a picture of the inside of it, so I don't know that for sure. But there is a slot on one side of it when there's not a record on it. But anyway, they've also supplied this, if you want to buy them, with two speakers, and the speakers have got the exact same footprint as the block of aluminium. So if you want to, you
can stack them.
You can stack them. Sod the stereo. You can just stack them and put it in a little pile, and it's the kind of thing, of course, with people that have got money, they want an object of art in their lounge. So when people come round for their dinner parties and say, "By George, old chap, what's this then?" You know, it's a talking point, and you need some money to do it. They're all made to order. It's a company called Waiting for Ideas, I think. It's called the PP1, and it's about 4.5 grand for the actual lump of aluminium, and then if you want the speakers as well, it goes up to about 7.5 grand, I think. So yeah, you need some money to get in on this, but looks great fun, and you know, why not? If people want to have that sort of thing, they have to have them made to order though, so that you're not going to see them on Amazon any time soon.
Where do they get the lumps of aluminium from?
I don't know. How do you make aluminium? What is aluminium? It's a isn't it an alloy? No, it's not. I don't know.
It's got a molecular structure. I know that much.
Yes. The other thing to mention here also is the upsurge of specific, not specific. I'll say that again. The upsurge of turntables, particularly from firms like Project, where they're hooking into specific. I saw one of these themed turntables for David Bowie, I think it was, and there was a Queen one, and this week popped up an AC/DC one, and it just looks, and again, lots of fun for the fan, where you've got this kind of thunderbolt AC/DC thing going across the tone arm is actually in a shape of a thunderbolt as well. And apart from that, it's made with the quality of you know, a very good Project turntable. It's not like this is a 50 quid from Amazon kind of knockoff, which is going to have a really crappy stylus. This is actually being made properly, and if you've got, you know, like 1,000 quid to spend, you can get one of these turntables, and if you particularly happen to be in AC/DC fan, then it would be just perfect. I can't imagine they're going to sell many of them, but perhaps they're made to order as well.
It's the sort of thing you could take it with you in the off chance that you could actually bump into them and get them to sign it.
Yeah, I love record players. Maybe next season we'll have a records and retro LP show.
Could well do. We'll look into it. Next up is well, it's just a quick one actually. We're going to be getting an announcement about the Oppo Find X8 Ultra fairly soon. Ted, any ideas what to expect?
No, this story is about the Oppo Pad 4 Pro, which is coming in April.
Oh, God, yeah, that finds a phone, isn't it?
This is a tablet, yeah.
Yeah,
And so it's an upgrade to the Pad 3 Pro, which is a giant. I think we spoke about it on the show. This was released in the last autumn, and it's a giant 12-inch tablet, a bit like they're kind of going after Samsung here, but we're expecting the upgrade, the Pad 4, to be you know, similar specs, but actually pumped up because of the chipset. And that's the news here, really, is that they've committed to the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, and it should be all singing, all flying. You're a bit of an Oppo fan, or have been in the past, and the quality of the hardware looks really nice. If you look at the Pad 3 Pro keyboard, for example, it just looks like an Apple product, basically. It's very, very nicely made, and Oppo, as we know with their phones, have been going after Apple-like features with what they're doing, so it's probably more of the same. But yes, the Oppo Pad 4 Pro coming in April with the Snapdragon 8 Elite.
All right, okay. We'll also call it the Oppo if you want, for those who like correct pronunciation and stuff like that. Okay, moving on to what we are going to be chatting about is bants and having a quick bant. It's pretty much YouTube this week, because there's been a report that YouTube Premium Lite is coming for those who already have a music subscription. So they're kind of I think they're looking at their subscribers and going, hang on a second, because they've got Spotify,
Yeah.
they're not subscribing because they don't need YouTube Music.
Hmm.
So they're doing a cut price one where you don't have to have YouTube Music with it, which is, I suppose, of interest to people who have Spotify and Deezer and
Apple Music.
Tidal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever else.
What do you think of this, Ted? Are you going to
I think it's great.
subscribe?
No, I'm not going to do it at all. Even if it comes to the UK, at the moment it's only coming to America, Australia, Germany, and Thailand for some reason. But I guess eventually it will if it works in those other countries. But I'm not going to do it because I use YouTube as well as YouTube Music. YouTube Music is my go-to subscription for music as well. So as far as I'm concerned, I get a decent enough deal from it. But yeah, I totally, completely accept that if someone else, the next person along, is baked into Spotify particularly. I mean, Spotify's everywhere, isn't it? And just to be able to pay Google for YouTube and not YouTube Music is absolutely great. I think they've been piloting this in India and doing quite well with it so far. So yeah, good for you, good for Google.
Yeah, no, I can agree. I'm concerned about the prices as to what they're actually going to try and charge for it. But I am also concerned about them getting the message across that this isn't this. It's similar to, say, Netflix's lowest rung of subscription, because I think that people having a quick glance at it might go, "Oh right, okay, it's probably just like Netflix where you'll get some ads or something." They might not realize exactly the setup of it, but it'll certainly help bring a large amount more people to YouTube Premium, and then YouTube Premium will just go from strength to strength, I reckon, because as we're going to be talking about in the next topic, a lot of people are using YouTube on their TV more so. And YouTube have really, TechSpot have done a bit of a dig deep into the YouTube numbers, uncovering YouTube's ghost town of billions of unwatched, ignored videos, of which all of mine are included. But also YouTube are kind of, they're dealing with the idea that things are changing, the way people are watching things are changing, and where everything went mobile, website browsing went mobile, and there was a huge push for people to make their websites compatible with mobile browsers. YouTube's going the other way, where it was very popular on the go, but now it's coming back that people are sitting down for an evening with YouTube open on their TV, and they're watching TV through YouTube, as opposed to watching iPlayers and ITV players and things like that. YouTube is an evening's entertainment for them. So I think they're looking into things and how things are changing. So what did you take away from the idea of the YouTube ghost town?
I'm not surprised to some degree. This completely describes my behaviour, what you just said. I don't have terrestrial TV, and everything I consume in my evening sitting in front of the telly is on YouTube or via my Plex, which gets me the content that I want to watch in that respect as well. Yes, of course, there are other streaming services, and we do have Netflix subscriptions and Apple subscriptions now and again, but you can dip in and out of those and pay for a month and what have you. But yeah, the concerning thing for YouTube, or maybe not, they don't seem to be that bothered about these facts and figures, assuming that they are true. And maybe we should just run through them quickly. Most YouTube videos receive fewer than 500 views. 4% of YouTube videos have never been watched at all. The research estimates here that 14.8 billion total videos are on YouTube as of mid-2024. So there's an awful lot out there. The average YouTube video has 41 views. The average YouTube videos is 64 seconds long. Well, that takes into account presumably all these shorts that have taken off. More than 33% of videos are shorter than 33 seconds. Only 26% have any comments at all. Only 11% have any likes at all. 14% of videos, only 14% of videos feature any professional set or background, which is surprising because the ones that I look at generally, they are done properly. Some are not, of course. Just 38% of videos show any sign of any editing at all. More than half of them have shaky camera work. On audio, 40% are simply music tracks with no voiceover. 40% of YouTube videos have got no voiceover.
Wow.
Just really surprising. And only 0.21% of the videos include any sort of advertising. We whinge about advertising on YouTube videos, or I do all the time, but look at that figure there. 0.21% of the 14.8 billion videos.
It's probably sponsor deals as opposed to actual, YouTube advertising. Yeah.
Exactly. The vast majority weren't polished content the vast majority weren't polished content, but rather personal expressions. Perhaps not so different from the old camcorder days, which is reflected by TechSpot in the end of all this. But yeah, some interesting and surprising facts in there, don't you think?
It is. It really is. It's kind of alarming. I know from sitting down in front of YouTube, in front of the TV, and you're sort of going across the videos, going, "What do I fancy watching?" You'll really notice the repetition as you're moving between the lines and different genres and different areas and things. But you'll see the same videos pop up. It's like kind of, you should watch this tonight. You should watch it. And there's a real push for that. Mm-hmm. But whenever you think about the trillions of videos that are on there, and you're seeing the same couple of videos over and over again, like you go to the news section and you get 3 or 4 instances of the same video being recommended to you, whenever there's so many other ones, and they're maybe about 2 or 3 days old. Yeah. Well, I want to watch something a bit more up to date or relevant than that, but you're not just going to get that. So I think YouTube's algorithms, as they say that they are so advanced and clever, I think they're shit. I really do. I think they're oversold on their algorithms, and they don't give people what they're actually looking to see. And if you use the search facility, Google, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but Google is actually a search engine. And whenever you search YouTube, you don't get what you want. And if you use Google search engine, you don't get what you want. And this is a big problem that's going forward, and I think YouTube is now suffering from that, because you're sitting down to watch something technology is a perfect example of how to do something. You want to work out how to set something up, and on the internet, I think now, if you've got any type of computer, any type of phone, any type of thing that you're looking to do with that computer or phone, it exists. Someone somewhere has done it and shot a video about it. Mm-hmm. But YouTube just can't show you it because their algorithm is so shit.
No, it's a different experience to what I find. If I tend to find that if I use the right search phrase, I get what I'm looking for. But they do say, though, that so I guess everyone's experience is a bit different, but they do say not to ever click on any video that YouTube suggests for you, and in which case you break the algorithm. So don't ever go to the suggested ones. Only go to the ones you're searching for yourself.
But whenever it comes to watching YouTube on your TV, it doesn't. Is that the whole line that's recommended at the top of? Yeah. So that's
you can
really
ignore
difficult.
that, though. You can ignore it, and you can go to the home thing on the left. And if you go to the home thing on the left, you get then the bunch of stuff that you go to subscriptions on the left, and then go right, and then you get the whole bunch of stuff. All of your
subscriptions,
all of your subscriptions you've got. Then it tells you what's been updated. It shows you all of the updated ones. But finding new stuff, I find that, unlike you, I do find that if I'm looking for some instructions of how to clean my Sage coffee machine, I just put that in and it comes up. So, as I say, I guess everyone's experience is different.
No, well, I bought an audio mixer for my computer, and I wanted to find out if it was compatible with Linux Mint.
Hmm.
So I was looking to see if there were people who had filmed videos of using it with Linux Mint and setting it up and getting the drivers to work and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't able to find any videos.
Right.
But because I started watching some of the videos on YouTube regarding Windows and this mixing thing, and then I was also watching Linux Mint videos. After about a week, I spotted a video that said my audio mixing desk with Linux Mint popped up, and it was 2 years old.
Right.
I was like, well, hang on a second. But I searched directly for the name of the mixing unit and Linux Mint, and it didn't show me that. It showed me everything but that, even a kangaroo beating someone up. Like, well, this is rubbish. It really is.
Right.
And if from now, whenever I'm actually looking for something, I'll actually go to an alternative search engine and I'll go into their video section and I'll save those videos to my to watch later list, because there's no point in searching for things on YouTube, because you're just not going to get what you want. You're going to get what they think that you should be watching instead, and that's not searching.
Okay. Well, as I say, that's not like my experience. I find if I'm, I was researching cameras this week, and I put in the Nikon D600, which was the one as I said earlier, I was looking at, and it all comes up and all sorts
Yeah,
of
that's
stuff.
a generic thing. But if you're looking to break that down, to find stuff underneath that, looking for almost like a specific thing, it does exist on there, but it's not going to give it to you unless you really jump through some serious hoops.
Okay, I'll do some testing then, based on what you've said, because perhaps I'm not doing the things that you're doing and say specific things, and I'll see if I can make it do that.
Yeah, well, you're going to pick something that's kind of obscure,
Yeah.
and then try to do it. But you've got to know that it already exists as well for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So you do your research elsewhere and then try and replicate that in YouTube, and you'll have a bad time.
I will. I'll have a look. Yeah, but must be some reason why YouTube's popular.
Yeah, it is. It's just easy to sit down and watch some fluff, recommended at the end of the day. Because I do like the videos that they do recommend, because they kind of go. I've actually got a feeling that they boil down, like on a Tuesday, you're maybe looking at a bit of technology. On a Thursday, you're maybe looking for some retro gaming. And I find that I tend to get recommended those things whenever I'm feeling a bit more like it. Like they have paid attention to when I watch videos about certain things.
Yeah.
On a Friday night, you like to watch gaming videos. On a Saturday night, you like to watch bikini videos. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think they are pretty clever, as is TikTok, but that's another story.
Yeah. Well, that about brings us to the bargain basement, where we have some deals afoot. We're going to start with Ted. What do you got?
Oh, this one was picked up by our lovely member from the MeWe group, Ali Foot. So thank you for that. The Uzni, or however you pronounce that, rechargeable lithium battery charger thingy and storage box, and 8 batteries in it as well. It's actually come down even further since last week. It's now £14.99. Now, I don't know how good these are compared to any Loops or the Amazon owned ones, but it's quite a nice little pack, and it should be 27 quid. It's now 15, and you get 2 little sections with 8 batteries. They're 3,000 milliwatt hours, micro watt hours. I'll get told off by Steve now for not knowing what MWH means. And they the batteries are about the same as the higher end Eneloops as well. So yeah, nice little box and a pack, and almost like a starter kit.
Yeah, is it actually for sale?
It's
it's not shipping to me.
Yeah, $14.99 from $26.99.
Yeah, I do have delivery options, so they will deliver here, but I can't buy one.
Oh.
Bizarre. Yeah. No, can't buy one. Next up is the Lexar NQ100. This sat in my basket for about a week because I was going to buy one of these and stick it in that XP machine over there. But I ended up going with the even cheaper one that popped up last week, was it? The MSI Spatium S270, which I have here. But this Lexar one has now suddenly dropped in price from £23 down to £13.99 for a 240 gigabyte SSD with read times of 550 megabytes per second, which is pretty darn good for 14 quid. I can't believe that. You know, you can spend that much on a coffee.
Yeah, in Harrods probably.
No, in Starbucks.
No, 14 quid for a coffee.
Oh, aye.
Blimey. That's ridiculous.
And then the 512 is £28.
I was just looking at that. Yeah, they're very well priced, aren't they? The 900 the one terabyte one is not so much of a bargain, but they're all quite well priced. Now it's time for us both to look away because we bought one of these at larger prices. The Lenovo Tab Plus has been reduced from £289.99 to 189 quid. This is the one with these stonkingly good speakers, as far as I'm concerned anyway. It sounds great, and you can also use it as a Bluetooth speaker to send stuff to as well. It's quite unique in many ways. And it's an 11.5 inch display, as we know, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM, and yeah, basically 100 quid off. Swines.
I think that's roughly what I paid for it, is it not? And I got the folio with it, which put it up to 220, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I got it before you, and I was in at the start, and I paid almost full whack for it.
Yeah. No, I bought it just before Christmas. My son got this for Christmas.
Yeah.
And at the end of the month there, he just got the wee stylus, which I managed to pick up because you get money back if you buy it directly through Lenovo. They'll give you points back, which you can redeem against further Lenovo purchases. So the £50 stylus was reduced down to £20 for me.
That's cheap. When I bought my stylus, it was 37, I think. So you've done much better than me on that by waiting. Well, of course, early adopters get caned.
They do. But also, this is not for me. This is for someone else. I am a wee bit envious whenever I see him using this. It's a lovely tablet, and that stand on the back is top notch.
Yeah.
Great stuff. It's a really good tablet. I like it, and I haven't found him giving off about being able to play a game or anything, because some people have said the processor's a bit slow in it, but I don't agree with that. I think it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, as usual. As usual, it depends what you want to do with it. If you're going to start rendering videos and editing stuff, then you might find it a bit sluggish. But I don't do any of that, and I'm sure your boy doesn't either.
He does, actually, and he has been doing it.
Oh.
And he's fine with it. He sits there and watches it render, and then he does little animations.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right, next up is the Ugreen USB-C charger, 65-watt fast charger, plug Nexod Pro 3-port travel charger. I think they got charger 3 times in there, and people are still able to find it. Oh, well, ultra slim GAN charger. Yeah, so 4 times in the title. It's reduced in price from £46 down to £39.09. And it's more of a traditional plug-looking plug. It sort of hangs down the way instead of being one of those wall warts that pokes out for you to trip up on. It goes downward. I like this. I really do. And at the bottom you've got 3 USBs. I think one of them's a USB Type-C and the other 2 are USB-As. Or is it? No, it's 1 USB-A and 2 USB Type-Cs at the bottom. And it charges your stuff super fast. 65 watt.
Okay. The American one, I'm just trying to work out what's going on with the pins. I think the American one has folding in pins, whereas the British 3-pin plug doesn't have folding in pins. So you can't. If you look at the second photograph down on the Amazon page, it's sitting behind a laptop, and there's no room for the pins. And I think that's because it's the American one, and they folded the pins away.
It's one of those arrangements where you've got the dongles that fit onto the US plug. The US plug pops out or pops away even, and then you
right.
slip
Okay, you take it away. Okay.
3-pin plug on the top, so it uses the same points as the US
right.
plug.
Got you. Oh, okay. Yeah, very nice.
But it's a nice travel charger for anyone who's jetting off this summer.
Indeed, 65 watt as well. Right, the SanDisk Ultra 1.5 terabyte micro SD card has been reduced from 150 quid to 100. Well, actually, last week we didn't do bargain basement last week, but last week it was 91 quid. It's still 114.50 at the moment, but so it's still reduced. But shame we didn't do bargain basement last week because it was even cheaper.
Yeah, even at that, sticking that into a security camera, you just leave it recording for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe.
A year. 1.5 terabyte. Yeah.
It's huge.
It is.
Brilliant. I have another one that says 2 terabyte, but this is a Gen 4 NVMe M.2 SSD. This is the Crucial T500. Amazon currently have it down in price from £170 to £99.95p, which is under 100 quid for a 2 terabyte SSD. Classy stuff. There's a Western Digital that is similar, but it's not quite as fast with the reads and write speeds at the top of Amazon's list. So I think this, if you're looking for a 2 terabyte SSD right now, this is the best value for money.
Where's that coming from? I don't know what it says on your Northern Ireland thing, but it says here delivery the middle of April. and yet it's sold by Amazon. So you think, well, why is it taking so long to deliver?
16th to the 19th of April, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what that's about. Maybe it's being made to order.
It could be. Maybe they're waiting on a big box to arrive up the Suez Canal.
Yeah, quite possibly. Anyway, yeah, there you go. All right, the last one is what bargain basement would be complete without an audio pair of headphones? One more. We've mentioned this brand before. I've never had any, but the One More HQ31 headphones look to be a stunkingly good bargain here. They started off at $79.99. It's not showing us a reduction, but it was $79.99. It's now $59.99. But the key aspect here is that they're a dinky pair of headphones, and they've got noise cancelling in on board as well, and 90 hours of playback time. Now, presumably that 90 hours means if you don't have the ANC on, but even so, that's really, really good. And you've also got a 3.5mm socket, so you can wire them up if you want to. Loads of stuff going on there for $59.99, and you can get it in lovely blue. What is it? That looks like a kind of powder blue and a pink.
Yeah, the baby boy blue or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. And there's a white pair as well. But they just look really nice, dinky. They're obviously after Sony with the styling. If you look at the band around the head, it looks very Sony to me. But yeah, 60 quid for a pair of headphones that will last 90 hours.
Also in the description, there's a review from someone who is called Amazon Customer. What a terrible name. His parents must have hated him. They have taken some nice close-ups of all the bits and pieces around the seals and the pads and things. So that's good to have. I like people who do that. Nice one, Mr. Amazon Customer.
Indeed.
Grand. Well, that about brings us to the end. If you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can go to techaddicts.uk as well. You've got PodHub UK. You can find us on X at techaddictsuk. You can find me on X2, not X2, The Revenge of X, but X as well. At Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I also have Mastodon and Blue Sky and my .com. Ted, where can they find you?
At my.com. It's tedsalmon.com, and links will be there to all of the stuff that I do, all the MeWe groups that we're involved in, links to join up for all of those, including Tech Addicts, and also all of our other audio podcasts that we're involved in. So do go and check that out and join the conversation with us. PayPal.me/Ted Salmon is if you want to buy me a coffee, and I'd be very grateful if you did. And I shall look forward to coming back next week where we have an MWC special.
Woohoo! Can't wait for that. Looking forward to it. So we'll catch you all next week. Take care now.
Bye.